Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at Raiden's Constellations, as well as her signature weapon, the Engulfing Lightning. We'll see the power that she gains from them. Let's start off by setting the stage for our tests. For these tests, my Raiden will start off with the following stats and with the catch. But before that, this Raiden was paid for by today's very generous sponsor,
Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends has millions of players and dozens of tough bosses. Click on the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen to get started with Raid. During the time of creation, the third race created were the Dwarves. They're the shut-ins of Raid Shadow Legends and have had minimal interactions with the other kingdoms. Dwarven society is made of delvers, craftsmen, nobility, and priesthood. Sadly, Sara's demonic forces attack the Dwarven kingdom, but the dwarves manage to win, but at a great cost. Now the dwarves have joined the forces of light to fight the darkness, ending over 1,000 years of being shut-ins. These new dwarves are amazing. They're evil-looking dwarves, and even fan service made dwarves. My favorite is definitely Herndig. He's got the coolest backpack I've ever seen. And did you know, the fastest way to level up your champions is through farming the campaign. You can grind loads of EXP and silver all at the same time. With tons of quality of life features in Raid, you'll be able to farm tons of resources super efficiently. This month, Raid's just released a huge new Doom Tower update. There are two new bosses, Astranix the Dark Fae and Bomal the Dreadhorn, and new overpowered artifact sets to win. And now is the best time for new players to start thanks to the brand new Super Raids, which literally double your rewards from dungeons. If you want to get a huge head start in Raid, all you have to do is hit the link in the description or scan the QR code right here. New players will get an epic hero, Chinoru, who is amazing in Doom Tower. 200,000 silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. You will find your rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. I wanted to thank all of you for your support, as well as Raid Shadow Legends for their generosity in sponsoring this video.
At the beginning, she's at Constellation 0. I'll be using the crit rate food for consistency's sake, since we'll be using the initial Q damage to gauge how much she improves. We'll be doing the same nuke combination over and over to see how her damage improves with each constellation. Unfortunately, I forgot about the RNG particle regeneration of her E, so there is a 1 to 2% variation in damage, thanks to the additional resolve that it may or may not provide. Anyway, now we have her baseline at Constellation 0 with the catch, and as we can see, it did 191,427 damage. Starting with Constellation 1, the Ominous Inscription adds additional resolve when allies use their bursts. 20% more resolve for a non-Electro teammate, and 80% for Electro teammates. Seeing how there is 120 energy spent on Bennett and Kazuha, and 80 energy spent by Sara. At Constellation 0, this puts us at 38 resolve, and with an estimated 2 bonus resolve from grabbing energy particles, that puts us at 40 resolve. Constellation 1 bumps us up to 56.72 resolve. At Constellation 1 with the catch, Raiden did 213,488 damage, a humble 12% improvement compared to Constellation 0. However, keep in mind that this constellation is actually useless if you already have 60 resolve, but for many situations that matter like the Abyss, it's not as practical to build up 60 resolve before using her burst at Constellation 0. Now for the big kahuna, Raiden's Constellation 2, the Steel Breaker. This constellation ignores 60% of an opponent's defense during Raiden's burst. With Constellation 2, Raiden did 302,227 damage, in comparison to the previous 213,488 damage. This is a massive 42% increase to her damage. Ignoring enemy defense has always been one of the more rare modifiers in Genshin Impact, and Raiden ignoring 60% of defense is colossal. Really, there isn't much else to say about this constellation besides that it increases her damage tremendously, and it's in a rare multiplier, so that way it does not suffer from diminishing returns like more attack or more bonus damage typically do. Next is Constellation 3, the Shinkage Bygones. Every character's Constellation 3 and Constellation 5 simply adds 3 talent levels to their burst or their skill. In Raiden's case, it is generously added to her burst. This takes my Raiden's bursts level from 9 to 12. 362,859 damage. This is an impressive 20% increase from her Constellation 2 damage. And if we also rewind back to Constellation 0, now Raiden with Constellation 3 is doing 90% more damage than her Constellation 0 counterpart. Now the next 3 constellations are in comparison rather underwhelming. Constellation 4 boosts the attack of the rest of the party by 30% after Raiden's Booba Blade ends. Although this example is overly simple, Eula's burst damage went from 139,106 damage to 156,822 damage. Raiden's Constellation 5 adds 3 levels to her E, which in my case increased her bonus burst damage by a tiny bit. And finally, Raiden's Constellation 6 reduces cooldowns when she whacks an enemy for the rest of her teammates. This currently has very limited use, but perhaps in the future there will be some unique applications for it. One thing I do like about it is that it reduces the amount of time waiting while speedrunning by a couple of seconds. This is because I can shorten Eula's cooldown from 20 seconds to around 15 to 18 seconds. As such, I save a few seconds of my life for every failed speedrun attempt. But did you know, when polling for constellations for Raiden, you're very likely to get Sara's constellations as well. Let's see how much Sara's Constellation 6 boosts my Raiden's damage in comparison to a Constellation 0 Sara. Wow, 472,105 damage. This is a massive 29% increase thanks to the 60% crit damage Sara provides Electro characters. Looking at this chart, we can see that the clear winners are Constellation 2, followed by Sara's Constellation 6, and then Raiden's Constellation 3. In my opinion, if you were ever planning on polling for constellations for a character, Raiden has one of the largest power spikes and the least amount of constellations. The only other character that arguably has a similar spike in less constellations is Kazuha, and that is mostly for his support capabilities. Raiden with 3 constellations does 90% more than her Constellation 0 counterpart. And with Constellation 6 Sara, now Raiden does 2.5 times the damage of a Constellation 0 Raiden with a Constellation 0 Sara. Again, this is one of the largest improvements in damage and the least amount of constellations in the game. So next, let's quickly take a look at the Engulfing Lightning. Going back to when my Raiden was at Constellation 0, oh how they grow up so fast. On the left we have the catch, in the middle we have a Refinement 1 Engulfing Lightning, and on the right we have a Refinement 5 Engulfing Lightning. Her damage went from 191,427 to 225,472 with the Engulfing Lightning at Refinement 1, an 18% increase to her burst's initial slashes damage, and the Refinement 5 Engulfing Lightning to 255,355 damage, a 33% overall increase from the catch. Overall, the value gain in comparison to Raiden's Constellation 3 and below is much smaller, but keep in mind that my artifacts also have way too much energy recharge, which hurts the Engulfing Lightning's performance. Anyway, let's see how much damage my Raiden can do now. She has a crit damage focused build, and food and wield supports. We're going to take this to our new favorite volunteer to nuke, the Perpetual Lego Array. $1,062,638 damage, compared to my peak F2P Raiden in my last video, which did 322,721 damage. This did 329% of the damage that a peak free-to-play Raiden can do. So now I want to talk about the order of priority for making Raiden overpowered. Constellation 2 provides nearly 60% more damage compared to Constellation 0. However, in my opinion, you should not bother getting Constellation 1 unless you plan to get Constellation 2. Next is Constellation 3, which provides Raiden around 18% more damage on top of Constellation 2. And finally, you have the added benefit of potentially getting Constellation 6 Sara. Constellation 6 Sara provides approximately 20 to 30% more damage on crit. Next is the Engulfing Lightning, which at Refinement 1 provided my Raiden 18% more initial crit slash damage. And another topic I wanted to quickly discuss is whether you should consider investing into her. First of all, if you're free to play and don't have the PRIMOS, then this isn't something for you to consider. But if you do care about meta, then Constellation 3 Raiden is one of the best characters in the game at one of the lowest constellations. Let's compare her to other constellations like Eula. Most of Eula's constellations aren't that great until Constellation 6, at which point her burst damage does a ton more than Constellation 0 Eula does. Ganyu's Constellation 6 is the big one, doubling her damage for a couple of seconds, and Hu Tao's Constellation 6 is what enables her to get some really massive nukes off. Anyway, I think you're getting the point. In terms of damage amplification, Raiden's Constellations 2 and 3, along with Constellation 6 Sara, which you're very likely to get by then, is one of the lowest amount of constellations needed to push Raiden into that quote-unquote broken tier. But before you go swiping that credit card, just keep in mind that on average, it takes around 105 pulls to get the 5-star character you want. Assuming you already have Constellation 0 Raiden, this is an additional 16,800 Primos on average, which is basically $200 per constellation. And I highly don't recommend getting Constellation 1 unless you plan to get Constellation 2, which ends up being around $400. Ultimately, I cannot recommend pulling like this unless you're 100% sure you are fine spending that kind of money. But if you are considering it, then hopefully this video provided you the knowledge you need. I will say that if the alternative is to get Constellation 0 versions of 3 other characters, depending on the characters, I'd argue that making your Raiden do twice the amount of damage as a Constellation 0 Raiden might be worth it. And if it were up to me, I'd personally choose to make 1 character broken over 4 characters being decent. Also keep in mind that Sara will have reruns much sooner than Raiden will. And guys, do me a huge favor and smash that Raid Shadow Legends link in the description below. They have helped tremendously in making this video and many other videos possible. Also, I regularly make Genshin Impact videos ranging from Caesar showcases, DPS showdowns, guide videos, and more. So be sure to smash the subscribe button as it's the best and easiest way for you to support my work. Also, don't forget to like the video and leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Went to Lose, signing out.